check the mic and make sure it sound right, boy.
In 1973, Martin Cooper, a research executive for Motorola, made the first phone call from a fully handheld mobile telephone, making the call to his rival over at Nokia. Absolute baller move, by the way. After that, there's nearly 50 years of history and innovation that led to us all constantly carrying around these way too expensive lumps of metal, glass, and magical computer chips. There's no doubt that many of us rely on these devices daily for social, business, and entertainment purposes. But today, I wanted to look at one aspect in particular, of course, being gaming. We'll skip past the early days of playing Snake on the indestructible 3310 to present day, where we're as close as we've ever been to getting full home console experiences while sat on the shitter. Mobile games are undeniably a massive chunk of the gaming community at this point, estimated to be over 3 times larger than console gaming and on track to take over 60% of the market share this year, continuing to grow what is already an industry worth well over $130 billion. That's fucking insane. My earliest experience with modern mobile gaming was with the first iPod Touch, and I bought in hard to the novelty of a touchscreen at the time, trying out as many of them as I possibly could. Angry Birds, Doodle Jump, Minion Rush, Jetpack Joyride, Plants vs Zombies, Fruit Ninja, 8-Ball Pool. There was literally hundreds and hundreds of them, and a majority of them managed to achieve their goal of super simple but fun little experiences with a lot of replayability. Some of these games became incredibly popular, with the likes of Angry Birds and Plants vs Zombies going on to become massive franchises with sequels, console games, merchandise, and even a fucking movie for some reason. Around the same time, we also seen the unstoppable force that was Candy Crush. It absolutely took over the planet for a few months, and I'm not kidding. For weeks, every other Facebook status was
OMG, so stuck on level 73, LOL, XD, XOXO.
From those early days to present day, mobile gaming only continues to grow year after year. When I first started scripting for this video, I wanted to take a look at different types of games you can get on your phone, but it very quickly became apparent that it's a huge topic to try and squeeze into one video. From the simplest of pastimes to massive MMOs, ports of old games to brand new experiences releasing alongside their console counterparts, and now the possibilities that come with streaming your favourite AAA offerings directly to your phone. I don't have the scripting or mobile phone gaming experience to tackle all of that quite yet, so today I'm going to take a look at a much smaller section of the pool. Games gone mobile. Properties that originally started out on the consoles, now with their own unique versions exclusively for your phone. Again, I'm going to be avoiding ports today, although some of them are incredibly impressive, and even now it blows my mind that we can get a console experience on our phone. That's another topic for another day, so enough talk. Let's take a look at a few of the mobile exclusives available to us today.
It sound right, boy.
May as well start with one of the big boys, huh? Now, I'm obviously not going to talk about the history of COD. It's been one of the behemoths of gaming for well over a decade now, and certainly doesn't need an introduction at this point. I was a huge fan of Call of Duty up until recently, where I kinda swore off online multiplayer games. But to this day, some of my favourite gaming memories were coming home from school, jumping on the 360 with the boys, and spending our evenings slaying people with a noob tube, or seeing how long we could survive against hordes of zombies in the OG Black Ops. Like I said, I've been out of the COD game for a few years now, but playing Call of Duty Mobile, well, it's kinda sucked me back into it. While getting footage for this video, I've spent an unhealthy amount of time over the last 2 weeks hunched over my phone playing this game, but it's for good reason. I truly think this is the best entry the franchise has seen for a good while. It is possible there's a little nostalgia bias going on, but we get a huge selection of the best maps from the entire series, a massive arsenal of fan favourite guns, dozens of game modes, daily, weekly, monthly and seasonal challenges and events to earn rewards, and even a full Battle Royale mode with its own maps, game modes, challenges and rewards. There's even controller support, which means it's a seamless transition to any existing players. If you're a fan of Call of Duty, there's a lot here to keep you engaged, and it doesn't feel like a stripped down experience when compared to its console equivalents. Even graphically it's mighty impressive. There's a bunch of games like COD with their own mobile versions now, Battlegrounds, Fortnite and Apex Legends all available to play from your pocket. But I know that if you have any interest in these games, there's a good chance you've been playing them for months. The reason I wanted to include this one first is, for anyone like me who maybe wrote mobile gaming off as repetitive time sinks with disgustingly expensive microtransactions, well, this is a great example of the level we're at now. It's very easy to find a game that is on par or even more enjoyable than what they're doing with their console versions, and it's got me excited to see what else I've been missing out on. From one monster of a franchise to another, Mario finally made his mobile debut in 2016 with the release of Super Mario Run. A game that takes the easy to understand concept that Plumber in Red is famous for, running to the right and jumping, and simplifies the controls so anyone with a thumb can enjoy it. In simple terms, Super Mario Run is, well, an auto-runner. Mario runs from left to right automatically, leaving you to collect coins, bop some classic Mario enemies, and avoid the occasional obstacle and bottomless pit. Rather than the rear view 3-lane style we've seen popularised by the likes of Subway Surfers, Mario Run takes place on a side-scrolling 2D plane, much more familiar to those that grew up with the Bros and World games. Control is extremely simple here. You tap once to jump, hold after tapping for a bigger jump, and tap again in the air to make Mario do a little twirl, extending airtime just a bit. This does mean you're not going to be pulling off any crazy movement combos you may be used to seeing with Mario, but it is perfect for a quick little session when you have a few minutes to kill. The level design is also pretty standard throughout, and is very reminiscent of the new Super Mario Bros., but I think they've managed to do a good job of adding in a few different level mechanics to keep your run engaging. You can basically wall jump off everything, which does add a little bit to the limited moveset, and you'll also see these floor pads which will allow you to move backwards, stop in place to plan your next move, or propel you forward to make it across large gaps or collect even more coins. These become way more important when trying to collect the 5 coloured coins that appear in each level. Pink, purple and black coins are placed throughout the stages, needing you to go from start to finish collecting all 5 of them. Each colour getting a little trickier with their placements. If you happen to miss one, you can use one of your bubbles to move backwards. These bubbles act as a reset when you get hit by an enemy or fall down a pit, or you can use one to float backwards if you do miss a coin, giving yourself another shot at it. But due to only having a few bubbles, you need to work out whether it's worth risking going for the coin and leaving yourself vulnerable to enemy hits, or if you even have enough time to go back and get the coin and complete the level before the timer hits 0. This works as a nice risk and reward system and adds some replayability to each of the stages. So we get a few different game modes with Mario Run. Tour, which is your standard level-to-level adventure mode, Rally, which is competing against another player online to see who can collect the most coins throughout their run, and Remix 10, which is 10 super short levels you need to complete back to back. It is nice to have the choice, I guess, but really, they all feel identical to play. You do also get this kingdom builder, which allows you to customize a small Mario kingdom, using your coins to buy cosmetics and different characters' houses. This will then unlock them for you to play as. It's pretty bland, to be honest, with only a few spaces to add any sort of customization, and it does feel a little bit like an afterthought. I know they've added it so collecting coins actually has a point, but for me personally, it doesn't really add much to the game. I don't think anyone's going to be getting lost in this for hours trying to perfect their kingdom. I do think it's great they've included a bunch of playable characters though, and they even keep their perks from other games. Luigi jumps higher, Toad runs faster, and Daisy can double jump. All of the characters look great and have some really fun and fluid animations during their runs, and for as simple as the environments can be, they're all fantastically colourful and instantly recognisable as a Mario world. Later levels do look a lot better than the few we're allowed to play without paying, but I'm not on that YouTube money, you know. You can fully unlock the game for a one-off payment of $8.99, and it's great that you have the option to just buy the game outright if you want. No subscriptions, no microtransactions, no loot boxes or waiting for some meter to refill to let you play a level. But for me, I just know I won't get my money's worth out of the game. I actually did put a little bit of time into Super Mario Run after I found out you can get free shit from Nintendo for playing in mobile games. You've been watching a video by the very proud owner of this Lego Mario keyring.
He's so cool.
But it just didn't grab me enough to actually invest any of my money or much of my time into it. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people felt the same because Nintendo considers Mario Run to be a massive flop. Although it's their most downloaded mobile game with over 300 million downloads, it's only brought in around 90 million for the company. I know that sounds pretty decent, but if we compare that to Fire Emblem Heroes, that's sitting at around 18 million downloads, but it's brought in, you ready for this? 983 million. A fucking $1 billion on a single mobile game. That's mental. I can't speak on the game itself as I don't have any experience with the game or the franchise in general, but it obviously showed Nintendo that the best way for them to make money from mobile games is of course those slimy little loot boxes. And that's no more evident than with this next game. Yep, we're sticking with Mario for one more game. When I first heard they were going to be releasing a Mario Kart on mobile, I was excited for it. I think most of us are partial to a little frantic kart racing fun every now and again, and it's pretty much a fact at this point that Mario is king of the karts, so it's a perfect fit. I mean, honestly, I am more of a Sonic Racing Transformed kind of guy, but I'm not here to debate. Nintendo have been perfecting their kart racing formula for 30 years now, so it pains me to say this, but I actually kinda hate this one. And it's all down to one reason, but as you'll find out when I get to it, it's a pretty massive one. I will get the pleasantries out of the way first though. So as you can see for yourself, the game looks fantastic. The characters, the karts, and the tracks are all brilliantly designed, bursting with colour, and there's that good old Nintendo bubbliness about everything. The music is super fitting and provides a nice backdrop during your playtime, with the characters all letting out the usual quips when overtaking other racers or ruining someone's week with a blue shell. There's also a huge selection of characters with different variants, karts and gliders you can mix and match, and a solid selection of tracks to race your way through. And the best thing is, all of this is free. So what's the problem then? Well, for a lot of people, the introduction of microtransactions has massively soured the game. See, Nintendo introduced a subscription to Mario Kart, $4.99 a month to unlock the Gold Pass. This locked the 200cc mode behind the subscription. Obviously Nintendo knowing that most Mario Kart players are going to want to get that fast-paced frantic action that they're used to. You also get access to gold challenges and upgrades that are used to upgrade your karts. So for anyone not wanting to commit to a monthly payment, they're left at a disadvantage against those players who have been able to constantly upgrade their karts and power-ups. Simply put, it's pay to win, and that really doesn't sit well with a lot of players, especially those that are long-term fans of Nintendo. A company that, for the most part, have been working against the grain when it comes to the ever-growing issue of microtransactions and games as a service. Although in principle, I don't like the money-grabbing aspect of Mario Kart Tour, I never got far enough into the game for this to annoy or even affect me in any way, because for me, despite the incredible first impression, things very quickly fell apart as soon as I started my first race. I hate the controls. They're incredibly awkward to use, and I never felt like I was fully in control of my kart. It strips away that feeling of bombing your way around some colourful courses, drifting at every opportunity, and replaces it with clunkiness and frustration. I know the longer I play, the more I'd get used to them, but I don't really feel like I should have to get used to an unpleasant control scheme, not when other mobile kart racers have already nailed it. So my issue is, you auto-accelerate, which is fine, but you steer by swiping left and right on the screen, guiding this arrow in the direction you would like to turn. This means it's incredibly difficult to get any sort of precision while driving. It's difficult to explain verbally, but it feels like rather than controlling the kart itself, you're kinda controlling the direction you want it to go in. I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but if you download it and try it out for yourself, you'll see exactly what I mean. At first, I thought they did this so it's possible to control it with one hand, which does make sense. But why wouldn't they at least give you the choice to have a better control option if you're happy to commit both of your hands to the game? This reasoning also falls apart considering they added a drift button, right at the bottom of the screen, possibly the most awkward place to try and stretch your thumb to while playing with one hand. I'm going to quickly show you a kart racer that I've actually been having a lot of fun with lately. Warped kart racers. Yeah, I know what you're thinking, but just bear with me. So as you can see, the left side of the screen has our turning controls, and the right side has one button for drifting and another to use items. Can you see how this feels way more natural to play than Mario Kart? It actually feels like you're holding a controller, and I always feel super comfortable playing and confident that my kart is going to do what I want it to do. And if you really don't want to use the touchscreen, well, there's full controller support, something Mario Kart doesn't offer over 3 years later. The fact that Nintendo hasn't fully embraced this and offered at least the option to use a controller is just confusing. Especially since they're not only the king of kart racers, but the most successful handheld gaming company on the planet. Well, come to think of it, I guess maybe that is the reason. Why would Nintendo want to provide a better experience for free on our phones when they can just introduce us to the franchise and then sell us a Switch and a copy of Mario Kart 8? I'm on to you, Nintendo. My opinion on the controls are enough to turn me off this one entirely, especially considering there's plenty of other options out there that feel a lot better to play. I honestly think a lot more people would feel the same if there wasn't so much brand loyalty for Nintendo. Yeah, I have it too growing up as a Nintendo kid, but if this was just a random cast of characters, this game would have quickly been forgotten. It's such a shame that what should have been a podium finish for Mario Kart quickly crashes and burns as soon as you get into the driver's seat. Wow, that was a fucking lame sentence. Rayman has switched things up a little throughout his time on our screens. A beautifully colourful but brutally unforgiving 2D platformer, straight into a weirdly dark but fun as hell 3D platformer. There's kids' educational games, a kart racer, and even a golf game. Ubisoft really have dipped his magically floating toes into a bunch of genres, but his latest console games have been a duo of incredibly fun and possibly most beautiful hand-drawn 2D platformers of all time. If you haven't played Origins or Legends yet, I can wholeheartedly recommend giving them both a little of your time. But obviously, today we're here to look at what our little limbless dude has been doing on our phones. And to my surprise, there's 2 Rayman games available on the App Store as we speak. The first, Rayman Adventures, released in 2015, with Rayman Mini following in 2019. Both sticking to their roots of 2D platforming with that same old delicious art style that originated with Origins. So, for the sake of being predictable, let's first take a look at Adventures. The game opens up to a brief but visually outstanding cutscene. Look, I'm just going to get all the gushing out of the way now, so you know where I stand and then we can just move on. The visuals are on par with its console equivalents, and I can't work out if I'm more impressed with the team that created them, or the fact that we could get something that looked like this on our phones 7 years ago. It's the same gorgeous hand-drawn backdrops, taking us through some magical forests, ancient Greece and haunted dungeons. Plus we get a bunch of the expected wacky characters, all with their own fluid and fun animations. I don't think I need to say any more when you can just see for yourself, but look at it, look at it, look at it, look at it. Okay, I'm done. So, jumping into the first level, the touch controls are explained to us, and I'm happy to see that they've taken the basic idea of an autorunner, but just elevated everything and managed to squeeze in a much more freeing moveset than most. Rayman does run automatically, leaving you to jump, glide, swing, swim, spin, kick, and ground pound your way to the end of the level. But the main difference here is, we're able to change direction whenever we want. So if you miss something or just want to take a different route, as long as the level allows it, you can. This makes looking for all the secrets scattered about a level way more enjoyable when comparing it to something like Mario Run. I was wondering, since they did so well adapting the console games to mobile, if they could have taken it a step further and given us full control, but I really don't think that would have benefited it at all. The auto running lets you just focus on jumping and attacking without overcrowding the screen or needing you to remember a bunch of different touch gestures. You tap to jump, swipe forwards to spin attack or kick whilst in the air, and swipe backwards to change direction. It's all simple but really effective and just feels natural to play. The newer Rayman games have absolutely nailed their level design so that everything has this bouncy rhythmic feel to it, and that's no different here. Within a level or two, you'll be chaining all of your moves together and gliding through the levels in a super satisfying fashion. You never really need to stop in place to plan your next move, as the level designs flow so naturally, so I never felt like I would have stopped running even if it was an option. Honestly, it's really impressive they managed to achieve what they have with this, and I don't think it's fun for a game on a phone. It's just a fun game in general. Of course, we do have a few telltale signs that this is indeed a mobile game though. Your main objective is to move from area to area, completing levels and saving these eggs, which when hatched after a set amount of time will give us a new little creature to add to our collection. We use these little guys throughout our runs to do things like signal secrets, collect lums we get close to, or take out enemies for a short time if we mess up our attack timing. Or if you really want, make some bangers with the beatbox mode. You can take multiple creatures with you on any run, but they will need to be fed before the next. The food is given to us periodically or bought with gems, this game's currency, so if you don't have any food, you can't take any creatures with you on your runs. But what's great here is, you're still able to complete each level without them. They're a perk, not a necessity, and they've managed to get the balance pretty dead on here. The microtransactions will speed up your progress, but I never felt like I was missing out by not spending any money. The only other hindrance we do get is of course those dreaded ads. Honestly, they are a little intrusive due to basically running into one after every level, and this one did manage to jump scare me at 1 in the morning, which I really don't appreciate.
They're all fake! There is no real puzzle game in this world!
But it keeps the game free, so I can't complain too much. Plus, there is actually a way to remove ads by paying $4.49 for this gem pack. It's nice that you actually get some in-game currency to go with your ad-free experience, and I think a $5 is a pretty fair price for what is a damn fun Rayman game. If you have a phone, you have my recommendation to check this one out. It's super polished, a lot of fun, stunning to look at, and really creates that desire to replay levels to sniff out all those secrets. This got me curious to see what they did with Mini, and what, if any, changes or improvements they managed to implement. So let's find out. Mini released in 2019 exclusively on Apple Arcade. The benefit to this, of course, being no ads and no microtransactions. But is the game as good as what was achieved 4 years prior with Adventures? Well, honestly, I think it'll come down completely to personal preference. The games are super similar in a few ways, but completely different in others, and it just depends which of those differences appeal to you more. Mini gives us a near identical moveset, but takes away one of the things I liked most about Adventures, the ability to change direction at will. They have built the levels around the new moveset really well, so it doesn't feel like you need the ability to change direction, but it does change how the game feels to play quite drastically. Where Adventures felt a little more open, allowing you to freely explore the levels for secrets, Mini feels closer to a traditional autorunner, trying to make it from the start to the end of a level perfectly. Your goal with Mini is to go through each level in each world, trying to collect all of the 100 lums. Once you've completed all the levels in a world, you're given access to a boss level. Completing this will then grant you 1 skull coin. If you manage to get yourself 5 skull coins, you're able to enter Mr. Dark's world. This gives you daily challenges to complete for rewards, so it's great that you always have something fresh to work towards. We also have access to music levels that need you to time your movements around the accompanying song. If you've played Legends, you'll recognise this type of level, but as much as I loved them in the console game, I actually struggled a little bit with them here. I don't know if it's maybe the smaller screen size not allowing us to see what's coming up next as much, or the touch controls maybe not allowing me to react quite as quickly, but the amount of trial and error did become a little frustrating for me. I know this is a personal gripe, but I'm not knocking the game at all. Lots of games implement trial and error mechanics, needing you to memorise and perfect the levels to complete them, and lots of people love that feeling of finally overcoming a section of a level that's been giving you a little grief. But I did find myself getting slightly frustrated with some of the levels throughout the game, and I think that's where most people will decide which game they'd rather spend their time with, and either option is completely valid. I will say though, Mini is one of the most impressive phone games I've seen, both visually and with just how smooth and responsive everything is. Don't get me wrong, Adventures still looks amazing, but Mini's levels are so dense with detail, filled to the brim with gorgeous backdrops and quirky characters. And they introduce a lot of moving elements to keep each run engaging, interesting, and full of surprises. Be it chaining together your jumps between dragonflies, jumping obstacles whilst riding a caterpillar, narrowly avoiding these runaway centipedes, or taking a brief break from all the chaos as you catch a ride on a floating dandelion. Not only does this all just look awesome, but it really ties everything together with the game's subtitle. Mini representing not only the devices the game is played on, but Rayman himself as you make your way through these beautiful but frantic worlds. Whichever Rayman game takes your fancy, you're going to have a fun-filled few hours tapping away at your screen. And if you don't have Apple Arcade, there's no excuse not to try out Adventures. And if you do, well, why not give both of them a go and see which style of gameplay you prefer. Crash Bandicoot, possibly the most easily recognisable orange marsupial of all time. Naughty Dog created a trilogy of some of the most beloved 3D corridor platformers before throwing in a kart racer just for laughs, which then went on to find huge success in its own right. The franchise then bounced around dev teams struggling to find its footing again. We had some ups, some downs, some games that tried to emulate the original formula, and some that changed it up completely. Handheld ports to old Java mobile games, there's a lot of different ways to spend your time with Crash, so it was only a matter of time until he found his way back onto our phones with Crash on the Run. As you can probably tell from the name alone, we do indeed have another endless runner. But when looking at the gameplay the franchise got its fame from, it actually makes perfect sense and seems like it should be a pretty flawless transition. When we just take the gameplay for what it is, then yeah, it works. We get a simple moveset we're all used to by now, swiping left and right to change lanes, up and down to jump or slide, and tapping to use Crash's spin attack allowing us to break boxes and dispatch enemies. There are a few little things they've added, like bouncing on mushrooms to get to floating platforms, throwing bomb berries to blow up nitro crates and take out bosses, or collecting Aku Aku masks to become invincible for a short time. But the truth is, if you've played an Endless Runner at any point in the past, you've basically played Crash on the Run. There's nothing here that really innovates or even adds to what is already an oversaturated genre in the mobile market. I completely understand why this is the style they went for, and I've admitted that it makes perfect sense for a Crash game. But unless you're a diehard fan willing to play anything with a Bandicoot's mug plastered on it, or a massive fan of Endless Runners in general, there's nothing really here to invest your time in. I will say the game looks great, and we have a massive cast of characters included that are all animated brilliantly. The music is a bunch of remixed classics anyone with some Crash experience will recognise, and it serves as a nice distraction throughout the somewhat tedious gameplay. Yeah, it's a polished game, but I just think it's a little late to the party. If this was 2014, I'm sure I would have invested more time into this one. But if you're going to release an Endless Runner in 2021, I'm going to need something at least a little different than what we've all had access to for the last decade. The other reason I think Crash on the Run just isn't worth getting invested into is the amount of waiting you have to do if you don't want to spend any real world money. So you have these battle runs which need you to make your way through a level and defeat the enemy waiting for you at the end. After so many levels you can take on a boss. Defeating them will then give you access to a new area which will then make you repeat the previous steps. The thing is, you need to have one of these nitro potions to be able to do a battle run though. You get the potions by making them with Wumpa Fruit and other items you find on collection runs. The sole purpose of these runs is to collect the items you need to make the potion you need to enter the level you need to beat the boss you need to move to the next area. When you have the required items, you then have to wait for the potion to finish. Or, of course, speed up the time with crystals that are either given out to us at certain level ups, or obviously bought with microtransactions. I completely understand that this is a me problem, but I just don't get the grind. The gameplay itself just isn't engaging enough to warrant the waiting, and there's better runners and games in general on my phone that I would rather play. Honestly, I would have loved them to have done something a little different and given us a game like the flashback tape levels from Crash 4. A button on the screen to jump or hold for high jumps, and directional buttons to move left or right. Super simple, but it would have been a lot more fun for me personally. I wouldn't even be too bothered if they did what they always do these days and littered it with microtransactions for skins and power-ups. But please, at least just give us something a little different, interesting, and unique next time, you blasted Bandicoot. So, I'm well aware that I haven't even begun to scratch the surface of mobile games yet, but playing a few of these games today has really opened my eyes to the potential we have sat in our pockets. I know I'm in the minority here, but I just never really gave mobile gaming that much thought. But I'm happy to say that I've really enjoyed my time with a few of these ones today, and I'm eager to check out what else I've been missing out on over the last few years. It's great to see we've moved on from the fun little distraction for 2-minute games I always associated with mobile, and now have some really engaging and surprisingly in-depth experiences. I know a lot of people may not have access to consoles or don't want to invest the money if they wouldn't invest that much time, but do have a phone. And it's that accessibility which I think is helping mobile gaming grow year after year and maintain its dominant position in the gaming industry. Possibly due to the insane amount of money microtransactions are raking in too, but that's another topic for another day. If you're a mobile gamer, let me know a couple of the games you've been enjoying on your phone, and maybe we could even take a look at a few more in a future video. But for now, thank you so much if you've made it to this point in the video. I really appreciate you sticking around and hope you've enjoyed it. As always, don't forget to subscribe if you want to stay up to date with content from me in the future, and I really hope to see each and every one of you in the next video.